Hello, good evening, halftime TV viewers and subscribers. Welcome to another episode. And today we will be having a very special guest, but that will come a little bit later down in this one. Before I go any further, let me say a big shout out to the sponsors, Quicklink Shipping, RS Sports Store, and CSA Shop. Quicklink Shipping, anything you need whatsoever, shipped into Jamaica. she they'll have you covered. RS Sports Store for all your latest sporting clothing and apparel. Check out RS Sports Store. Chelsea Clinton, big up yourself, Chelsea. We had a little bit of a delay, primarily because our guest is busy covering some stories for the Philadelphia Union. All right, so as I promised, we'll have a special guest this evening. He works with the Philadelphia Union, top journalist. He's been in the field for over a decade. We will be picking his brain a little bit later on in the show. Okay, so look out for that one. As I said, we expect big things. We expect big things, and we don't intend on disappointing. All right. So if you have your questions, get your questions together. We definitely will see if we can get a few of those questions in as well. Okay. So big up everybody. Big up everybody. If you're just joining us, welcome to Halftime TV. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet done so. You know the pleasure is always mine to have you guys here. We always appreciate your company. All right, so big up everybody. Our guest today, he will be with us in probably a couple of minutes. We'll see another great game from the Capo today, Rob Smith. Yes, and we'll be talking about that as well. We will be talking about the game he had today. And again, that's one of the reasons why our guest isn't with us as yet. He's currently covering the stories, probably interviewing Andre Blake as we speak. But Jonathan Tannenwald, he is our guest, and he is one of the top journalists with the Philadelphia Inquirer. He's worked with the Washington Post. He's worked with so many reputable newspapers. He's a top journalist. And again, I'm happy you guys are here as we will delve into some pressing issues that we've had all week. We'll pick his brain on those and more as we go through the program. All right. All right. So he just sent me a message, said he'll be here in 5 minutes. Rob Smith, big up yourself, Rob Smith, Mark's Catering Company. Big up yourself, Mark's Catering Company. Folks, if you're new to Halftime TV, welcome. We have the link in the description if you want to reach out for business and all of that fun stuff. Please feel free to do that as well. All right, so here goes. Hello, good evening, the man, the myth, the legend, the man himself, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to have you here. Welcome to Halftime TV. It's your first time here. The goalkeeper. I've always wanted to ask that because I saw you on Twitter and it was a goalkeeper. Were you a goalkeeper?
Well, first of all, I am new to Halftime TV, so I guess I have good timing. No, I wasn't. I played very briefly in school.
Okay.
And I played very poorly in school, which is why I played very briefly. It was just a little fun with some, SEO stuff and things like that.
Okay.
At the time, it was, 2010, I think it was. It was a while ago. And I had some other ideas, and my editors had their ideas. And because my editors are the bosses, they had the final say. So that's life,
All right.
That's what we ended up with.
All right.
But no, I'm just off watching from home the Philadelphia Union's game at Atlanta, where Andre Blake, at the end of this week that he'd had, played just one of his best games of the season. He was really terrific.
I watched that game as well, and especially that save in 91st minute from Joseph Martinez.
Yeah,
what a save that was! And I think in a game that the Philadelphia Union basically they were feeding on scraps, in my opinion. 0 shots on target. Again, they showed their defensive prowess. They showed why they're one of the best defensive teams in the league. And again, they reassured us that Andre Blake will more than likely be capping his third MLS goalkeeper of the season award.
Just in case anybody's interested in that sort of thing, right?
All right, so sounds good. All right, so for those on here who don't know much about you, Jonathan, tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm the chief soccer correspondent at the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is the major newspaper here in Philadelphia. I also, it's funny, I've always paid close attention to the Jamaican media because one of the other things that I have covered since I was in university here was the Penn Relays track meet. It's one of my favorite events of the year. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of the Jamaican media who've come up for it every year. Watched Johan Blake, watched Asafa Powell, watched Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Nesta Carter, Usain Bolt once when he absolutely, the year he ran here, you could not move in the stadium for an hour before and an hour after. It was so packed. It was very special. It's one of my favorite events of the year. Andre's been a number of times over the years. And as I said, I've gotten to see a lot of the great Jamaican sprinters in recent years run there too. So,
sounds good. Sounds good. And again, just so you're aware, because we spoke briefly prior to you agreeing to come on the channel, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know you have a busy schedule. Philadelphia Union, it's coming to crunch time.
Yes.
Of the season, so I can imagine you're extremely busy. But welcome to Halftime TV again, and we're happy to have you. And I know all the folks over there in the comment section, they're happy to have you as well. At the end of the show, don't worry, I'll pull maybe one or two questions from them to hear what they want to ask you. But I'll just jump straight to it. You just spoke with Andre Blake, I'm assuming.
We actually didn't, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Which wasn't entirely surprising, all things considered, given the situation, and we can sort of, since I figure we're going to jump right into it, we might as well just jump right into it,
Yeah. Might as well.
I was at practice on Thursday.
Yeah.
By which time he had already spoken to the Jamaica Observer and the Jamaica Gleaner. He, through a spokesperson, declined comment to me. Nothing personal. We've gotten along for a long time since he's been here. I had a hunch that he had sort of said his piece already.
Yeah.
On everything that there was. And, I had sounded out a couple of friends and sources of mine in Jamaica. I had obviously seen what Stella Marley had put on Instagram. I saw what Andre put on Instagram. I saw everything that he said. As soon as I saw the roster, I had the same sort of gut instinct reaction as everybody else, which is something must have happened here.
Okay.
And reading the coverage that came out of Jamaica, where they were speaking about how I think a JFF spokesperson said to the Observer, well, he wasn't at the games in August, and I looked at the roster for the games in August, and none of the big players were at the games in August because they weren't during the season. They were not in a FIFA window,
Yeah.
So, I know some of the history. I know Andre fairly well. As I said, I have not been able to speak with him since this all happened. I'm planning on being at the game at Red Bull Arena. It sure sounds like, the new manager, Helmier, came in. My Icelandic is not very good. Sorry. I was going to butcher it.
No worries.
I tried to say it the first time around. Obviously, he knows what he's doing as a manager, and he doesn't take the Jamaica job unless he gets to call in the players that he wants to play it. That he wants to call in. So whatever happened, as far as we can tell, at least for the moment, has been smoothed over, which is good because as soon as that roster came out, my initial instinct was the same as everybody else's, which was something happened here that isn't right.
All right. Just to stick a pin, because I read your article, and for those in the comment section who haven't read the article, I have the article in the description below. So while you're listening in or while you're watching this, you can glance over at the article as well, and you explored different avenues, which I admire. I think we lack that in journalism these days, presenting all the facts and allowing the public to form an opinion based on the information that was presented. Now, based on everything that you saw, and I know you said you saw Andre Blake in practice on Thursday, and he had spoken to the Observer, and you thought that was the end of it. But I think, was it Thursday that he made a second post indicating that?
Yes, he said something on Instagram.
He said And this is me quoting him. I mean what I said, and I said what I mean. Right?
And yeah, and that was, I think, for all of us who've been following the situation from the outside, that was enough. And it's certainly, I was out at dinner last night, and I left dinner, turned my phone on, looked at my phone, and there it was. Andre Blake has been invited to the game, and I said, okay, well, that surely, I used to cover politics, local politics, a long time ago. So and I've covered CONCACAF, all of its ups and downs in various ways for a long time. At a certain point, if it smells like a fish, you start to figure out that there's a fish in the fridge,
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
It is, I don't know for a fact, but everything seemed to point in that direction. Certainly everybody in Philadelphia is behind Andre.
Naturally.
And it's a soccer fan base that tends to be on the player's side, all things considered. Whether it's the women's national team up here with their equal pay fight of many years, which I'm sure you know about, or whatever it may be. Jim Curtin also said after today's game, and I'll vamp here for a second and pull up the quote that he said he was proud of Andre for speaking his mind about the Jamaican Federation. He didn't explicitly say that that's what caused all of this, but again, I think everybody could tell that that was a factor. And we certainly know that because Andre's been the captain of the Reggae Boys for quite some time now, when he speaks on a subject of importance like this, everybody pays attention.
People listen. All right. And again, I know you've been in the field, you've been in journalism for well over a decade. I don't want to make you seem too old, but well over a decade. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, a little more than that, but yeah.
If we're being professionals here, what are your thoughts on the initial statement that he made, all things considered?
Look, I'm only going off for now, as I said, the things that I've read in the Jamaican media, the things that he's said publicly elsewhere. I haven't had a conversation with him about it since this all happened. I have certainly spoken with him many times over the years about being the captain of Jamaica's national team, about some of the issues that there have been with the Jamaican Football Federation, about match fees and other travel conditions. We remember that there was a threat of a strike. I think before World Cup qualifying or before the Canada game? I forget which.
Yeah, I think it was during World Cup qualifying. Yeah. It was during World Cup qualifying. Yeah.
There was a strike threat at one point. There was a pay dispute a couple of years ago. Andre has also stood up for the Jamaican women's team a couple of times over the years for for them to have better funding from the JFF. And it was in fact, that was part of, I cover women's football very deeply, and that was part of how I saw Cedella Marley's Instagram post, because I know that she's been the big funder of the Jamaican women's program for a while now. Nothing surprises me in this game. Every once in a while, some team will upset some other team, and maybe I'm surprised. But in terms of governance, politics, things off the field, nothing surprises me. That's been the case for a long time. And I have to think that in the Jamaican media, certainly among the Jamaican fans, I can't imagine that all that much surprises anybody, All
right. That sounds good. Again, and we're using the same premise that we've just established. What would be your reaction to, and I know you're a big supporter of Philadelphia Union, had this been the Philadelphia Union and Andre Blake?
It's funny you say that, because I'm actually not a Union fan. I'm not from Philadelphia originally. That's part of why.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm a part of it, but I'm not a fan.
But in terms of player disputes and things like that, First of all, I think it's a testament to Jim Curtin, the manager of Philadelphia, who's one of the best managers in the league, even though he's certainly not the most famous. He's probably not the most experienced, and I'm fairly certain he's not the highest paid either. But there's a long history of managers in this league who either they're very good at managing the international players, but they don't develop the kids from the youth academy in the club, or they're very good with the youth kids and the development, but they're not very good at managing the big egos of the international guys who come in, the designated players and things like that. Because as we know, among other things, the DPs in MLS make millions, but the young guys and the draft picks and the academy kids make $50,000, $60,000. So that can be a problem in the locker room. But Jim Curtin, with Andre Blake's help, I should say, has been very good about managing the people in the Union's locker room throughout his tenure in Philadelphia, and it is why he is one of the best managers in the league and has been in this job for so long.
All right.
I will make a little bit of a different comparison. I've dealt enough with the U.S. men's and women's national teams. Player gets dropped, nobody knows why. Nobody wants to say anything about why because nobody wants to upset the apple cart. So somebody floats a rumor out there, oh, it's this person doesn't like this person, or there was an argument, or somebody's being selfish, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. These things happen all the time. I try to not jump to a conclusion quickly until I've made my own phone calls, talked to enough people, tried to talk to the people involved if I can, with which a national team is not always easy because they're all over the place and not here. But again, in this instance, along the way of this, I reached out to some people I know in the Jamaican soccer scene along the way of all of this, and some other people I know around the sport. I said, is this as suspicious to you as it is to me? And they all said yes. So obviously I'm not going to name anybody because that's
naturally.
But and again, if it was Leon Bailey not showing up or Mikel Antonio, I might not have been surprised because it's a high profile friendly game, but it's a lot more important for Argentina because it's their last game before the World Cup than it is for Jamaica. It's a big time exhibition, but it's not, because Jamaica's not going to the World Cup, it's not as important for them as it is for Argentina. When I looked at the roster that came out and saw that a lot of the big names were on it, but Andre wasn't, and I had already seen some things starting to float around about what Andre had said, I started getting a little suspicious. And as I said, made some phone calls and sent some notes around and stuff to see what was going on.
All right. You made mention to the Philadelphia Union coach and his ability to manage the dressing room, especially with the help of Andre Blake. Having said that, do you think the new coach, Jaime Hallgrimsson, made the correct decision to get Andre Blake back into the team?
Well, I don't know him at all, first of all.
Yeah.
So I've never, I did not go to Russia in 2018. So I've not, if I had gone, I might have had some, been at a news conference with him or something like that,
Yeah.
But I would like to think.
Yeah, because before you speak, I'm just taking it from the angle of a new coach coming in and considering Andre's track record, especially with Philadelphia Union, what he's done with the Jamaican national team and all of those variables. Now, naturally, as a coach who's coming into a new setup, you will want players like those in your corner. You want players who can rally the troops. So that's why I wanted to hear your take on that bit.
And I think it goes a little step deeper than that, which is that you don't want, understanding that all of this may have been beyond any coach per se. A national team coach, you would like to think ideally would only be picking players on merit. And I'll apply this to the U.S. too, because Greg Berhalter as you've probably seen, Greg Berhalter has not called in John Brooks for a long time now, and he is probably the best American center back out there. If he was in the squad right now, he'd be one of the only players going to Qatar who had played in a World Cup previously for the United States. It is possible. I think it might be unlikely, but they're probably going to go to the World Cup with at most one or two, but probably one player who's ever played in a World Cup before, because they didn't qualify for 2018. So Brooks as a locker room presence, never mind just as a player, would have been a big deal. He's also, for this September games that are coming up, Berhalter also didn't call in Jordan Pefok, who used to be called Jordan Siebatcheu. I'm sure you've seen him. You've seen him play for the United States before. You've seen him play for Young Boys in the Champions League. Now he's with Union Berlin in the Bundesliga. They're in first place. He's scoring goals. He's providing assists. The rap on Pefok for a while has been that he doesn't high press defensively enough to fit well in Greg Berhalter's system, and the rest of us have looked at it and pointed and said he's the best pure finisher out there. Bring him in and surround him with Christian Pulisic, Gio Reyna, Weston McKennie, etc. And he's going to create chances. He's going to put the ball in the net, which you need to do at some point.
Yeah. Especially considering you guys are struggling to find a number 9.
Right. So he didn't call him in this time. He was surprised. He had a news conference after he announced the roster, and he got half a dozen questions, including from me. And he said, well, he's close. He's impressed us. So that was a step more than he'd taken for a little while now. But again, Bob Bradley had a doghouse, and it didn't help him. Jurgen Klinsmann had a doghouse about the size of his backyard with a lot of players in it, which frustrated a lot of people here, as I'm sure you might remember. You'd like to think that a national team manager ideally would not have a doghouse. He would just call in the best 25, whatever the number is, players. Okay, maybe one or two. There are 1 or 2 guys don't fit perfectly in terms of tactics or cohesion with some of the others, but you'd find some way to get that message across so that it's not out there as a mystery as to what's going on. And we'll see now whether the new manager of Jamaica, he says he's starting with a blank slate, which I think is a good thing, and hopefully that'll last for a while.
All right.
That's how I'd put it.
All right. That sounds good. You made mention of the quote-unquote doghouse, and I hope the folks in the comment section, they understood the analogy. But
it's a very American analogy, I must admit.
Yeah, but I hope they understood. And again, he means the favorites that they're undroppable.
Well, it's not even. It's a little bit favorites that are undroppable, and it's a little bit guys who you don't like.
Yeah,
who you're not calling in, and it's not clear why. One of your commenters mentioned the exclusion of Landon Donovan, and that's the classic example.
Exactly.
When he didn't take Landon Donovan to the World Cup in 2014, and Chris Wondolowski had the miss against Belgium that Landon Donovan probably would have scored.
Yeah,
that's the classic example.
Yep. So thanks for that, El Granjero. But and we're going back now, because I think we, as fans of the Jamaican football, we've always had the notion or the opinion that the team selection came from the top, and the managers, they had a say in it, but it wasn't solely their decision. Now, considering what we're seeing now, where Andre Blake was out of the setup, where I think everyone in Jamaica, they were like, straight off the bat, they were like, okay, yeah, like this is definitely coming from the top. This is
right.
Do you think it would be, and I know he's a staple. We would say he's undroppable. He is undroppable. He's the best goalkeeper in CONCACAF, hands down. I think we have some candidates up there that come close, but Andre Blake, based on his consistency, based on what he's done in the MLS, based on what he's done for Jamaica, he's at the top. What's next for Blake, the Federation, and Hall Grimson? How do they fix this? Because they said it's a blank slate, but it's easier said than done.
So I am admittedly going to try to dodge that question. And the reason why is because I don't know anybody at the JFF.
Okay, all right,
So
fair enough.
I don't, how to fix it.
All right,
I don't know who would be involved in the fixing.
Let me put it the other way. Let me put it the other way, because Andre Blake clearly has he has no intention of working with them, and he made that clear, right? I would assume that he spoke with Hallgrimson, because Hallgrimson called him back.
Said so. I think that he spoke with him. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely they spoke. How does Andre Blake treat things going forward? How does he stay out of the Go ahead.
It's a good question. I think I'm going to answer it based on conversations that I've had with him in the past. Not necessarily recently, but in the past.
Yeah.
I know how badly he wants to play in a World Cup. I know how badly he wanted to be in this World Cup, and I know how many people in CONCACAF thought that Jamaica was going to at least finish fourth, if not third. Really, that they thought this was their time with all the talent that they had. And they got off to such a poor start, especially the loss at home to Panama, and they were never able to recover along the way. I know how badly Andre wants to play in 2026 at the World Cup, which is going to be in the United States. He could play he might even play a World Cup game in Philadelphia. That would be pretty amazing,
In front of the home fans, eh?
That would be wonderful. And with the expanded World Cup and CONCACAF getting more slots, you've got to imagine that that's going to be the shot.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be, I think, 35 at that point. That's his one chance to finally play in a World Cup.
Yeah.
I know he wants that. I hope that it doesn't get taken advantage of. We don't know what the qualifying format situation is going to look like for 26 when the time comes, because it's still going to be a while before we even know how many slots CONCACAF is going to get. I don't want any of these players to be taken advantage of. I don't think that would be fair at all. And I think that when you look at the fact that they got Leon Bailey, they got Ravel Morrison, they got Miguel Antonio as dual national commitments for this World Cup cycle, and that was a big deal. If the Jamaican Federation screws it up too badly between now and, what is it going to be, 2024 or 25 when the next qualifying cycle starts, the word will get out among these other players who might be considering playing for Jamaica instead of England or the USA or whatever it may be. And because they have the choice, they're not going to choose to play for Jamaica. That's one of the interesting things about the state of the international game right now, is you have so many players with multiple nationalities, which is a great thing, I think. And they have the ability to make a choice as to which country they want to represent, which national team they want to play for. So the Jamaican program for all these dual nationals has to be somewhere where these players want to play. And if it's not, whether or not those conversations are had publicly out loud or whatever, the signals are going to be sent around, and we're going to know, because these players are not going to commit to playing for Jamaica. But I also think, and it goes back a few minutes to the importance of the resonance of when Andre Blake speaks. And I saw a few minutes ago a question of some people asking, should he continue to be outspoken? Should there be a players' union? Now, disclaimer on that one. I'm in a labor union, so I know the value of a labor union. Other than that, that's up to them, But Andre Blake is not just an undroppable player and one of the top goalkeepers in CONCACAF, as you say. He's the captain of the team. Not anything against Mikel Antonio, Leon Bailey, Ravel Morrison, Shamar Nicholson, other guys. But Andre Blake is all of these guys' captain. Not just captain for himself. He's the captain of this whole team. So I think that does make it even more important when he says something. Just as it again, I'll draw the analogy with the U.S. women's team. It wasn't just a few players who were speaking out or in the labor bargaining rooms with the judges and the lawyers and all of these other people. For all these years, it was the team captains and the big stars. It was Becky Sauerbrunn, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, all the big-time players who have worn the captain's armband for this team over the years and know what that means, inside and outside of the locker room. So, if Leon Bailey was speaking up, if Michail Antonio was speaking up, it would be a big deal. I will admit I might not have seen it right away because they don't play in Philadelphia, so I pay a little more attention in terms of looking for what Andre does. And that's on me. But the fact is that Andre has the captain's armband, so it should matter a little more when he has something to say, and he has done.
All right. For those who assess this situation, Andre is speaking up as a bad example for the newcomers who are coming into the team, because folks would say in an organization or in an establishment, if you have a problem with the boss or the manager, you take it to his desk, you take it to the office. What would you say to those individuals who assess the situation from a different angle?
Well, I'm always in favor of players.
Because I heard you said you're in a union, so I expected.
Yeah, well, right. No, I'm always in favor of players speaking up, and sometimes that's what you have to do.
I agree.
If this was a first-time occurrence, maybe he wouldn't have spoken up the way he did. But we know the history overall with the federation and the program and so on. And so he's not the first player to do it. He's probably not the last. Again, as I said, I think the ramifications in the future are not just for the young players who are coming up in Jamaica, but for the dual nationality, or sometimes even more than two that are out there now. The international players who would choose to play for Jamaica instead of another country, are they going to make that choice? And if you're the Jamaican Federation, are you going to be running a national team program that makes them want to play for Jamaica? And that's up to the JFF.
Okay. Andre Blake, in the post that he made, he said, new coach, same federation. Again, we can't expect there to be progress with the same federation, even if it's a new coach. And this is not me quoting him. That's the essence of the post that he made.
I saw what you're referring to.
Yeah.
I couldn't find it. I went to find it and I couldn't find it. So I know what Elsie has said. I don't know who was involved in the hiring of the coach. I'm not that well connected on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know whether players are consulted or not. Whether it was Michael Ricketts on his own or other people involved, I have no idea. So I can't speak to who made the decision, when it was made, whatever. I probably ought to stay out.
No.
In a way, because I don't. If he gets along with the new manager and he gets along well, then what he said is not going to matter.
Yeah, true. But if it goes the other way, then the questions will come up again. But I didn't say that for you to share your opinion. It's just for those in the comment section who are wondering. All right. But again, I think we've picked your brain enough on Andre Blake and the Jamaica Football Federation. Now we're gonna hop back over to the Philadelphia Union. Just had a massive game. Second half seemed as if there was an injury. Did you get any information on that? How serious is it?
So I think he suffered it in the first half.
Oh yeah, the stoppage time was so long. Yeah.
He went for a dive of some kind. He landed on his shoulder. He landed on his right shoulder. And he came up grimacing. And I don't know what the injury was. I can't imagine that the Union's medical. I talked to Jim Curtin, the manager, 10 minutes after the game. I'm not sure they knew yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know how bad it was. He kept playing.
Yeah, he played till the end.
He landed on the turf again, and it's artificial turf there in Atlanta. It's not natural grass. So I don't know what it was, whether it was just sore, put an ice pack on. I don't know yet about what it was.
All right, so fans, stay tuned for that. Hold your breaths. I hope you don't get too worried. Hopefully, he'll be ready for that game against Argentina in a couple of days. I think today is 17th, still 10 days to
10
go.
days out.
10 days to go. I think he should be fine. He should be ready for that one. But I'll take a few questions from those in the comment section, and then I'll allow Jonathan to go back and enjoy the rest of his evening. We have Ryan LFC, we have Stefan Wright. So it begs the question, will Andre Blake remain as a captain going forward? That's a tough question.
Not up to me.
What would your decision be, though, Jonathan?
I mean, if it was up to me, I'd keep him, but it's not up to me. I guess we'll just sort of see how it plays out.
Yeah,
I don't think we know the answer to that yet.
Yeah. Rob Smith, both are ball. Yeah, Corey Burke.
I don't know what that was.
He was holding his hamstring.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was cramp. He came out of the game, so I don't know whether he pulled it or it was cramp or what. We'll probably have to wait a day or two to find out. I mean, I'm sure we will find out, but he was a reserve, I think, on standby for the Argentina game.
Yeah, he was. But information reaching us was a couple of players that were called up were actually suffering from injuries. So I think Corey Burke would have possibly been moved up the pecking order as well.
And it's close by too. I mean, I think that was probably another.
Yeah.
It's the Red Bull Arena in New Jersey, which is not far from.
True.
At all.
True. But we'll see. What do you think the union's asking price for Andre Blake? I don't think.
Oh well, see, here's the thing. It has. I know Andre and I know his agents, and obviously I know everybody at the union.
Yeah.
Only once in his career has the formal interest in terms of potential transfer fee prices, bids, whatever else, been so concrete that it got into the media. It was 5 years ago now when Crystal Palace and Brighton came for him.
Yeah.
And it ended up not happening because the clubs didn't take it any farther, because at that point in time, Jamaica's FIFA ranking was not high enough for him to automatically get a work permit. Yeah. Now it is. As soon as they got into the top, 50 or 75 or whatever it is. Okay. As soon as they got there, I expected there to be a ton of bids for him, and there weren't. At least not that anybody knew.
Okay.
He's never, to my knowledge, there's never been a formal offer from anywhere in Germany. I don't know why. Or Spain, I don't know why. You'd think that there would have been a lot more interest in him in recent years.
Okay.
I think in terms of what the price is, I think the union would be reasonable about it. But to me, the story with that has always been, why hasn't his name been in the news more in terms of transfer rumors?
Okay.
Because it hasn't been very much.
Yeah. Who's that down to, though?
Pardon?
Who's that down to? Because we know the top agents across Europe, across South America, they basically put their clients in the news, right? They ensure that clubs are talking about their clients, and even if clubs aren't talking about their clients, they get people to write about them. This is the next big thing. This is the person who is blowing up the MLS or the Copa or wherever it is. So who do you say that this is down to?
Well, I mean, his agency is the most famous agency in the U.S. in terms of soccer players. The Wasserman Group, which represents a lot of the big U.S. national team stars, a lot of the collegians that have come out, become big time in MLS, et cetera, so on. The agents know all of us in the media. If there was something, they'd put their client out there in 2 seconds. I'm not worried about that. Okay. It's never happened. I don't know why. It's always surprised me. At this point, it's interesting because now you know, the two goalkeepers who have left MLS recently are Matt Turner, who went to Arsenal, who's in his mid to late 20s, and Gabriel Solonina, who's going to Chelsea, and he's a teenager. And the European clubs are all coming for the teenagers now. They're not coming for the 20 plus something year olds.
True.
So I don't know how it's going to play out in the end. Has Andre pushed for it? No. Excuse me. Sorry. One of your commenters said, has he pushed for a transfer recently, or is he complacent?
Complacent being in the MLS.
I'm going to answer no to both, believe it or not. And I think that the answer on has he pushed for it, not so much that he's raised a big ruckus about it. I mean, he's very happy to be raising his kids in the U.S., in Philadelphia. They live very comfortably, so on and so forth. I don't think he's complacent for two reasons. One is the union changed sporting director a couple of years ago, which led to it from Ernie Stewart to Ernst Tanner, which, excuse me, sorry, which led to a fairly dramatic change in their playing style from a sort of Dutch possession-oriented game to a German counter-pressing game. And so that gave everybody who stuck around sort of a whole new era of things. The other is he wants to win another trophy here. He wants to win an MLS Cup. And that's, that's another part of it.
What's his contract situation as things stand now?
Knew this. He is, give me a second and I will look it up because I have it on hand. I just have to pull it up here.
Yeah, no worries. Welcome to the channel, folks. If you're just joining, remember, smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. All right.
Guaranteed through 2024 with a team held option for 2025.
2024, 2025. So roughly 3 more years then.
Yeah.
Roughly 3 more years. At 31, I think that's a good deal. That's not bad. I think he had a recent extension, right? He had a recent extension.
I just had it up too, and I just went and closed it. So
yeah.
Open it again. July of last year.
Yeah. I remember.
He signed the deal through 2024 and 25, and we'll see. It's a question that always has fascinated me. I know it has always fascinated him, but if there's plenty of speculation about any number of players in MLS these days. It's not hard to get in the headlines. True. So if there was about Andre, I think we'd know.
Going back to the MLS players and those who made the transition to Europe, we've seen a number of them who've gone. Some have gone and come back, like Martinez, who we saw earlier on this evening. What are your thoughts surrounding those who made the transition and it hasn't worked out? Because we know it's kind of different in European top flight. We've had top players play in Germany and then they've gone to England, and again, whole new different ball game, whole different ballpark. And because, for example, I think he plays, was it Fulham that he plays for? Robinson. Is it Robinson?
Well, Anthony Robinson, I don't think ever played in MLS, but I've got a great.
Yeah.
I've got a great.
No. I'm just talking about Robinson. I saw him as a US player initially, because when I found out he actually played for the United States, I'm like, whoa, this guy, top player. Yeah. And then I've seen players who've come across who made the transition with different reputation, bigger reputation, who played in the MLS. And in my opinion, Anthony Robinson has been far better than them in the European game. Probably it's because he's been playing there forever, or you get what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the angle I'm taking. But you can go ahead now.
Well, the great example I was going to give you is Ricardo Pepi. Went to Germany for $20 million.
Is it Augsburg?
Yeah.
Augsburg? Yeah.
and was such a bust that he got loaned out to the Netherlands after half a season. And Augsburg had just been bought by a consortium of Americans. That was their first big splash. And he really struggled there. And everybody thought every time a young American striker scores 2 goals in a World Cup qualifying, he's automatically the saint. You know? Everybody thought he was the guy. Capital letters. So he went on loan to the Netherlands. Now, to his credit, he's now played 2 games for Groningen. He had a goal. He had assist in his first game. He had a goal today, which is his first goal for anybody anywhere since I think last October. I'm not going to name the team that he scored it against because I think you know fairly well, maybe a little too well. If my memory's right, and it might not be right, but I think he scored against Jamaica somewhere along the way.
Yeah, he did. He did.
But that's an example. And I'm generally in favor of young players going to Europe when they're good enough. When they're good enough is a key clause. I thought Ricardo Pepi was good enough. There's a lot of young kids on the Union right now who are going to be in Europe in a couple of years who are very good. I mean, the example of it going right is Brendan Aronson. And I think there's something instructive in what he did because his first move was to Red Bull Salzburg. It was not to a big team in Germany or England. He went to Salzburg, which was a step up in level, but not 3 steps up in level all at once. And he went to a team that's very good at developing young players.
That's my point that I was going to get to. He went to a club that believes in youth, and we've seen through their track record they're more than comfortable welcoming in the youth with open arms and then developing them and then moving them on to bigger and better things when they're ready.
They also play in the Champions League, which is an opportunity for the guys to show themselves off. And the reason why he moved to Leeds when he did ultimately is because Salzburg wanted to keep him through the winter transfer window because they were about to play Bayern Munich in the round of 16, and they wanted to put on the best effort possible. And they did that. And it was a gamble because Aronson's move to Leeds then became Marcelo Bielsa wanted to remember, not just Jesse Marsch. He might have moved that January, but because he stayed, the move became contingent on Leeds staying up, which they only did on the last day of the season. It was very nervous for everybody.
Yeah.
But that was an example of getting the move right. And I hope that, what am I able to convince anybody of who's, 20 years, whatever, younger than I am. But I hope it's a lesson that you might want to play in England or Germany or for Barcelona or Real Madrid or Milan or wherever. You want to play for the big clubs of the world. But it's good to take that step along the way in the middle. Go somewhere that's a good team that develops young players, maybe plays in the Champions League or the Europa League, out of an Austria or a Belgium or somewhere like that, and then make the next big step up.
All right. Fair enough. All right. I think we'll leave it at that for now. Jonathan, anything you want to say on the situation before you go? On Philadelphia Union, on Andre Blake, Dre, the man himself. Big up Andre Blake anywhere you're at. Fantastic game today. Really enjoyed it. Again, sometimes we don't talk about it as much, but when you see proper goalkeeping performances, we need to lift our hats. We see strikers bagging hat tricks and we're happy for it. We're on the edge of our seats. But when we see goalkeepers doing their thing, we have to be happy as well. And today, I think I've seen my fair share. I was watching, what game was that? I think I was watching the Bournemouth game earlier on today. Goalkeeper, top performance. And I know that game ended in a draw. And again, top performance from Andre Blake in this one. Philadelphia Union had 4 shots, 0 on target. Atlanta had 16 shots, and just about 6 or 7 on target. But Andre Blake the man himself, Big Performance. Jonathan, again, thank you so very much for being with us. Folks, you can check him out on the Inquirer. He writes for Philadelphia down there. But Jonathan, let them know where they can find you as well on social media or on Twitter.
On Twitter is the fastest way, at the goalkeeper. I think it's right there in the picture.
All right, there you go. So
that's
on Twitter, it's at the goalkeeper, folks. You can follow him for all the sporting news over there in the United States. If you like MLS content, Philadelphia content, check him out. He has you covered. All right. So again, Jonathan, thanks for being here. Everyone who's tuned in, thank you guys so very much for joining us. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for sending in your questions. We appreciate you. I hope each and everyone enjoys what's left of their evening. All right. Peace out. Take care.